Now, as I've told you before, our website is What's on Sports. It's whatsonsports.com. You guys can go over there and you can check out all sorts of great articles and features and fun things like that. But along with that, we also do this really cool podcast, and we let people write letters in on whatsonsports.com, and we answer those questions and letters here on the show. And we're going to do that as right now we reach inside the mailbag. Let's go to our first question. With the way the Jets have really come on in the last few games, can you see any scenario where Adam Gase gets to keep his job? I see no scenario because Adam Gase has already been fired. But let's imagine that he had not been fired, and you would have asked me that question. I would have said no, because it's not just about Adam Gase winning a couple games at the end of the year, which, in all honesty, Adam Gase and the Jets should be applauded for, because there was a natural tendency there to just give up. But that team kept fighting, team kept trying, and they were able to pull out a couple wins at the end of the year. But it's less about that, and it's more about how inept Gase has been as a coach over the last couple years. And the years before that. Again, as a Miami Dolphin follower, I realized that Gase was in Miami first and was horrible. When Gase got hired in New York, people in Miami were thanking New York. You're like, oh, great. At least we made sure you didn't get any better. We're in the same division. We appreciate it, buddy. So it actually worked out in the favor of Miami when Gase left, and it didn't work out for New York at all. Why hire a guy named Adam Gase who's been so bad? All based off of the fact that he worked for 2 years with Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning made him look good. So, no, I don't think there's any scenario where Adam Gase gets to keep the New York job. And not only that, I don't think there's any scenario where Adam Gase gets a job this year. I cannot see anybody seeing the potential in Adam Gase in the NFL right now. Question number 2. Michael Irvin recently came out and said that Randy Moss and people like you are out of their minds if they think Jerry Rice is not the best of all time. Does that make you change your mind at all about Jerry Rice? No, it does not. If you missed me, I think 2 weeks ago or last week on the show, I can't remember. I said that I thought that Randy Moss was the greatest wide receiver of all time, and that Jerry Rice was not. Jerry Rice was second or third. I'd have to really put together a real list. Now, I appreciate Michael Irvin. I know Michael Irvin personally. Nice guy, obviously very knowledgeable about football. But Michael Irvin is always going to speak the highest about his contemporaries. It's very rare that you're going to find someone that's going to say, yeah, the guys who played with me in the 90s are not as good as the guys who played in the 2000s or the 2010s. That's not normally going to happen. So I respect Michael Irvin. Obviously, he's a Hall of Fame football player. And probably, if I put my list together, would be considered one of the 10 greatest wide receivers of all time, maybe top 15. I don't know. I'd have to put my list together. And I respect his opinion. And I admire the fact that Michael Irvin thinks that Jerry Rice is the greatest of all time. He was number 2 to Jerry Rice's number 1 at that time. But Jerry Rice, in my opinion, is no way, shape, or form the same dynamic athlete that Randy Moss was. Jerry Rice wasn't a guy who scared the hell out of you the same way that Randy Moss did. So in my personal opinion, and this is, again, strictly my personal opinion tells you that Jerry Rice is not as good as Randy Moss. I also want to touch on the fact really quick that people are just far too sensitive anymore. This whole thing where anybody can be the GOAT, and if you disagree with somebody because I think that Michael Jordan's the GOAT and you think LeBron James is the GOAT, and now it's an argument, I don't think it's an argument. I think it's a difference of opinion. I think there are some metrics that point to the fact that Randy Moss is a better overall wide receiver, but at the end of the day, this is really just about my eye test. It's not about analytics. It's not about metrics. It's not about any numbers that I've seen. It's just about, I saw Randy Moss play. Randy Moss scared the hell out of people. You had to game plan for somebody like Randy Moss. And Jerry Rice was a very good player. And yes, you did actually have to game plan for Jerry Rice, but not in the same way that you had to game plan for Randy Moss. All right, let's go with our last question really quick. We all know what the Jaguars are going to do, but if you are the Jets, do you take a quarterback with your top pick, or do you stay with Darnold? What are the scenarios that you see? So 2 Jets questions today. Here are the scenarios I see, and I'll make them really simple for you. I think the Jets have to take a quarterback with the top pick. And this is the answers are really simple. It's really based on finances. Sam Darnold's in his 3rd year. Going into his 4th year, they're going to have to pick up his option, which means in 2 years, he's going to become a very expensive quarterback if he's a good quarterback. If you have the ability to trade Sam Darnold today and move away from Sam Darnold today and get some draft capital back for him and then pick up a quarterback, you're better off doing it strictly for finances. The best way to build a team in the NFL right now is to have a rookie quarterback and to be able to build up your team around that cheap salary in your quarterback. If Darnold is considered a top 20 quarterback when you re-sign him a year from now, he'll want $25 million or more every year. If you pick up a rookie quarterback right now, he'll want 10. So the difference is tremendous if you're trying to rebuild a team, which is what the Jets are trying to do. So I think if you look at it from a financial standpoint, you have to say to yourself, Sam Darnold has had his moment, and the coaching staff had their moment to build a team around Sam Darnold, and they failed to do so. So if you're going to make a change, you've got to make the change, and you've got to make it to a younger quarterback, basically strictly off of finances. And that's how you work out the things in the NFL. My name is John Tenora, and this is the What's on Sports podcast. It's been our pleasure to keep you guys entertained for the last 27 and a half minutes. We come to you live 5 days a week, 10:30 in the morning, on Facebook, on YouTube. Thank you all for your comments. I did read them, and I know where they come from. They come from a good place. I'll make sure I take care of it for you guys today. You all have a great day.